Welcome to this video. In this video we're going to learn about Python module. And before we start, let me start by asking, what is module? Do you want to know what is module? Well, let's imagine this. Imagine you are in your room and there is a lot of books all over your room, and you just go and said, okay, let me just take out some books. Like, you decided to say, okay, let me go and buy 3 books. And when you go outside and buy 3 books, when you come back home and you say, okay, now I buy 3 books and I want to organize those messy textbooks. So those messy textbook, you have chemistry textbook, you have physics textbook, you have geography textbook, mathematics, and other textbook related. And you said, okay, so now since I have so many different kind of textbooks, so let me just separate them box by box. And you said, okay, let me take every mathematics textbooks and put them in box A, and then I'm going to take every chemistry textbooks and put them in box B. Then I'm going to take every chemistry textbook and put them in box C. So then you said, okay, let me go to action, and then you take all the chemistry textbook, put them in box B, all the mathematics textbook box A, and you just organize all your books. And then you say, okay, let me go and keep those boxes. So these boxes that you put your books inside is the same thing with module. The moment you said you want to use your mathematics textbook or chemistry textbook, you just have to look for that box that you put chemistry textbook inside. Imagine you put the chemistry textbook in box B. Then the moment you say, okay, now I want to use my chemistry textbook, then you just go straight to box B and open it and pull out one of those chemistry textbooks. So in case this is exactly in Python programming what module is all about and how it works. So but in Python programming, every file that you see here, if you notice, I created 3 files. I have arithmetic.py, comparison.py, and main.py. So look at each file a box. So but inside the file, instead of books, I'm going to put a lot of functions. Each function is going to serve like that book. So if I have like thousands of functions inside arithmetic.py, then in my book, in that box example, is going to be those books. So the more every function is served like a book, and this file is served like a box. So but I can use other boxes in a bigger box. So this main.py is like the big box. So I can include all of those boxes inside this main.py box. So by including them inside, that helped me to say, okay, instead of I end up with like thousands and thousands lines of code, I can just separate my code file by file and then start including them inside. So I hope you understand my explanation, but let's do it practically. Now if you notice, I created this folder called mod. Then inside this mod, I created 3 files: arithmetic.py, comparison, and main.py. So but inside this main.py, if you notice, I'm inside main.py. We're going to see how we're going to use our own module. But before we start practice, we have different types of modules. We have standard library, or just standard modules. We have third-party modules, and also we have custom modules. Let's start with standard modules. Standard modules are just modules that come pre-installed with Python. For example, if I wanted to include another box into my program or another module into my program, I just have to write import, then the name of that box, or I said the name of that module. So in this case, I'm going to use a module called random. I'm going to say random. So this random is a standard module, or I say is based on the types of module, is a standard module, which is already come with Python. I don't have to go to my terminal and write pip install so module. It's already come with Python. I just have to import it, or I said I just have to tell Python, okay, bring this box into my program. So but inside this random module, we have so many different variables, so many different functions and so on. So if you want to know what is inside this random module, we're going to call this function called dir, called directory, and then we're going to say, okay, what is inside random? We just pass the name of the module. So but we have to print it, then I'm going to say print dir random. So if I run the program, I'm going to see the output of all of the variable functions that inside this random module and objects. So now I run my code, and if you notice, this is the output. You see, giving me a list of those functions and variables. You see, it's inside a list. So I have this b, pf, log, and whatsoever, and I have this yes, what is this? We have random, rand int, rand byte, a lot of functions. We have different types, different kind of functions, but let's take 2 to 1 function and use it. Let's use this function called choice and this function rand int. Let's just use them only. So if you want to use this function, what we just have to do, we just need to call the random. So I'm going to just say random. Then when I call the module, or I said the box, then I said inside the box, which is dot, then I'm going to tell the module, okay, what function I want to use. Then I'm going to say I want to use choice function. So by doing this, I'm called the module, then I said inside the module I want to use this function called choice. So what is this function is doing? Maybe you don't know, but let me tell you. If I have a sequence of elements right now, let's say a list, I create a list. Let's say a list of 1, 2, 3, a list of numbers. So now I have a list of numbers, but I wanted to choose one of them randomly. I just want to choose one of them randomly. So we can use this function called random choice. So let me store the random choice value inside a variable called choice, or I say choose. So I just abbreviate it with C. So now I'm going to pass the list. I pass the list. So inside this function is going to take this list and randomly choose one element. When it randomly chooses one element, is going to return it. Then I save it inside this variable called C. Then I can be able to print and see what did we get inside the C. Let me clean my terminal and let's run the code. Okay, let me run this here. So now you see the program automatically choose 5 for us. Let me run it once again. Now it choose different value. It choose 4. If I run it again, it's going to choose different value. So it's going to keep randomly choosing value for us. So you see, instead for me to go and write all this program by myself, I can just use another person program, or I said yes, another person program. Then I just have to include in my file and just import it into my program. As easy as that. So this is the power of module. I hope you understand one type of module called standard module, which is the module that already come with Python pre-installed. So now let's look at the second type of module, which is the third-party module. Those third-party module, we have to install them, but I can't recall one of the third-party module, because most of the third-party module I know, we use them in a big project. For example, like a request module, we use it to make a request to the a server, just like you are in browser, like you are browsing. Here I am in Mozilla Firefox. If I just write a domain name of a website, for example like youtube.com, and I just click enter, it's just like I make a request to the YouTube server to open YouTube and start seeing videos. So that module request, we can be able to use it to make that request to YouTube server. So if we want to use that module, we have to install it by writing pip install request. So you see, this module is, we don't have it, is a third-party module, so we have to call it into our program and then we can import it and work with it. So if I just run it now, it's going to go on to the internet and install it. So now we install the, let me check, did we install it correctly? Okay, we have an error because I think I don't have an environment variable, which is virtual environment, that's why. But there's no problem. If you are working in a PyCharm, you can be able to do that. But here I'm working in Visual Studio Code, which is I have to create my own virtual environment. But never mind. So I hope you understand third party. But I think I already have the module, which is request. I can just be able to call it. Yes, I already have it. But this request module, like I show you, you have to install it first because it's a third-party module, and include it into your program and start working with it. So now since I include it, I can just say request dot get. When I just say dot get, then I'm going to put the URL. For example, just say okay, youtube.com, like this. So let me just print out the response. Let me call it R. So when it make the get request to that youtube.com, like we are trying to open the YouTube server, then we're going to store whatever the YouTube give us as a response. And let me print it. If you don't understand, don't worry, I just want to show you that different types of modules so that you just don't know only single one. So as you can see, you already have an error because I did not put the URL correctly, saying I have invalid URL. But let me go to the YouTube and let's grab that URL. Something like this, Control C. So let me just paste it here and see the magic. So now let's run it. So you see, we have a response. That response that we just see earlier, it's telling us, okay, our request has gone through and YouTube accepted our request. So for us to make a request to the YouTube server, we have to use another person module, or else we have to create it by our own. This is what we call a third-party module. And for you to get a third-party module is easy. You can just go to this website called Python Package Manager, which is a website where you're going to see a lot of different Python modules where you can use that make your project very easy. You want a module to do some stuff for you, just come to this Python package index. You're going to see a lot of different packages. Let me search a third-party module that will help me analyze a Google data, assuming. So let me just say okay, Google Analyst. So I'm just looking for a library that will help me analyze data. So you see, I see this one module called Data Analysis Toolkit. It's been created in June 4, 2018. So this is the description of the module. It will tell you what you see the utilities. I can do machine learning stuff and all. So I can just download it by just clicking on this download file and include it in my project, or I just have to use this command like I showed you. I just have to say pip install then analyst. But right now I just want to show you, but I'm not willing to work with it. So now we understand third-party module, and now we're going to see how are we going to create our own custom module we see standard Python library, we use random module, and we see third party module, we see a request, and now we're going to create our own Python module. So as you can see here, I have two different files. I have arithmetic.py and comparison.py. So let me create a function in arithmetic.py. This function is going to just take two numbers and add them together. So I call it yeah, I made a mistake. I call the function add numbers. Is going to take two numbers, and then return the addition of them. So I'm just going to say n plus n2. So this function is just going to add two numbers only, and then maybe we can have another function that will just, instead of addition, we will just subtract two numbers. So we just call it subtract number. So I call it subtract number add numbers, and instead of adding, just going to reduce. So let's leave us with these two functions, and let's go into the second file, which is comparison.py, and create another two function. My first function is going to be a function that will check for which number is a big number. Let me just say let me call the function who is big, and then it's going to take two values in an n1, and then it's going to return true if n1 is greater than, if n is greater than n1. You check n1 greater than n n1. If n1 is greater than, if n is greater than n1, then it's going to return true, otherwise it's going to return false. Let's create another function inside it, and this one we're going to set who is less, and this who is less function is going to take also two values and return which one is the small one, and return true if n is less than n1. So now you see I have two functions inside this file called comparison.py. So this comparison.py is like the box, and this function is like the books that we put inside the box, and the same thing with this arithmetic.py. So now in our main program, I can just say okay, import, then I said arithmetic, because I already have it in my I already have the file in the same folder, so I can just say import arithmetic. And also I can import another file which is comparison. I'll just say import comparison. So now I can just say okay, let me create two values, which is n equals to 3 and n1, or let me just call the function and see what you're going to get. I'm just going to say arithmetic. See, that's the name of the module, and you can remember inside the module we have two functions, add and subtract. So I can say arithmetic dot, then you see I have those two functions, add and subtract. I can just say arithmetic dot add numbers, then I will pass it two numbers. Just say pass 5 and 7. So let's print the result. Let me save the result inside a function variable called r, and let me just print r. So now let's see what's the output. So as you can see, we have 11 as our output, and you can also call another program, which is another function called subtract numbers with the same value. Then I will pass, I'm going to see -3. So this is the output. So you can see this is how we're going to use custom modules. So here I just created my own module, and I just use them to add it into my main program. So when you start working a big project, this is how you're going to utilize your massive project where you have thousands lines of code. So you just have to separate them in different file and then have a main file and import them and start working with them. So we can use another module, which is comparison. And inside the comparison, we have also two functions, which is who is big. Let me take it. So between 4 and 7, is it 4 greater than 7? Who is big, 4 or 7? Then we're going to see true. Because okay, we see false because 4 is not greater than 7. Then if we change it to 41, then now we're going to see true because 41 is greater than 7. If we change to who is less, then we're going to see false because 41 is greater than 7, not less than 7. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you understand what is module in Python programming and how to work with it. So let's meet our next tutorial where I'm going to teach you other concept of programming.